Radhe Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivadadhadi Girivadadhadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivadadhadi Girivadadhadi Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivihara His Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavadinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gora Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 22. The translation. Therefore, this entire universe, which is like a dream, is by nature unreal, nevertheless appears real. And thus it covers one's consciousness and assails one with repeated miseries. This universe appears real because it is manifested by the potency of illusion emanating from you, whose unlimited transcendental forms are full of eternal happiness and knowledge. And the BBT purport, as an object of enjoyment or a permanent residence for the conditioned souls, the material universe is certainly illusion, nothing more than a dream. One may give the analogy that the vision of abundant water in a desert is no more than a dream, although real water exists elsewhere Similarly, the vision of home, happiness, and reality within matter is certainly no better than a foolish dream in which repeated miseries appear. Paragraph. In another sense, however, the universe is real. Whiplash, right? It's not real, then it's real. In his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, Srila Madhvacharya has confirmed this by quoting the following statement from the Vedic Shruti mantras: Satyam hi evedam vishvam ashrajata, or this universe created by the Lord is real. The perfect authority of the Vedas, thus, certifies this universe to be real. Nevertheless, because our knowledge is stolen by illusion, as indicated here by the words asta dishanam, we cannot properly understand this universe or the Supreme Lord who has created it, as the expansion of Lord Krishna, the universe is real and is meant for being engaged in his service. One who accepts the kingdom of God as home, the Lord himself as the object of love, and the material universe as paraphernalia for being engaged in the Lord's service, dwells within eternal reality wherever he may go within the material and spiritual worlds. So is it this or that? Is it real or unreal? It's real and it's unreal. Come on. Commentary helps. I'm going to be reading some commentary, and it helps. But it's good to get a picture before we go into the commentary. This BBT purport is juxtaposing the two nicely. And it connects, going back to Karunanidhi's question about Sat and Asat, Sat and Asat, Aham Evasam Eva Agre, that verse. And the usual sense of Sat is eternal existence, Sat, as in Satchit Ananda or Om Tat Sat or Sat, that which is existing eternally. And Asat is that which doesn't exist eternally, it's temporary. That's the standard. So this material world is Asat. And at the same time, going back to that, Prabhupada's word for word in the Chaturashloki, first of the Chaturashloki verses, 2.933, Sat is the effect and Asat is the cause. So the effect is something you can see. And Asat is something you can't see. So the material, this universe, this is our simultaneous oneness and difference, or very, very similar to the first few verses of chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita, where the Chinta Veda Tattva is also explained. The material universe is unreal in the sense that it's temporary. It's like a dream in the sense that it's temporary. There's no substance in a dream. There's no substance here. Using the language that Prabhupada has in the first purport of the first verse of Bhagavatam, there's substance and category. So here there's category, and the spiritual world there's substance. And then someone will argue, wait a minute, you're sitting in a chair, that's pretty substantial. Are you going to sit in a spiritual chair? That's the substance, this is category. Anyway, This is philosophy. So some people don't like philosophy; they like stories. But the stories are illuminating philosophy, and so here we're getting the illumination of the story of what Brahma experienced, which was a nice story. So how to understand what he experienced? Is the universe real or not real? We're going to hear that in the previous verses. I'll go to Sanatana Goswami's commentary is the most difficult I've found to make sense of, like what's he saying. But in his commentary, I think we'll not read it this morning, he says in verses 18 through 20, this is text 22. In verses 18 through 20, Brahma is making the argument that the universe is not real. Now, I didn't get that sense, but that's what he's saying. He's anyway. What's going on? Is the universe real or not real? So if it's accepted as paraphernalia meant for making offerings to the personality of God, although it's temporary, we make offerings of the temporary to the source of the temporary, to the eternal source of the everything. That's bhakti. And one is situated in reality. That's how to perceive it. It's temporary, but offerable to the Supreme Lord. Just like this body, just like our faculties, our senses, mind, intelligence, everything, we can offer them in service to the Supreme Lord. Although the chair and the table and the universe is temporary, in that sense unreal, like a dream. No substance. When the dream's over, what happens? When this body is over, what happens? When the chair is over, what happens? It's like a dream. No more than a mirage in a desert. What's the reality in a dream? What's the reality of the water in a mirage? So that's the how to perceive, because the topic, going back some number of verses, the topic is the relationship of Shakti to Shaktiman, or Sambandha Gyan, the relationship of energies to the source of those energies. What is it? And there's different energies, spiritual, material. The material energies we can normally, customarily call asat, because it's temporary, like a dream. But in another sense, because it's from the Supreme, it has contact with the Supreme, being from the Supreme, used in the service of the Supreme, then we're connecting with reality through the temporary. Here we go. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, to summarize, the universe is matter, and the medium-sized form of Krishna is Shuddha Sattva, spiritual. Now this medium size, the Sanskrit is Martya Lingam, Martya, like human form, Martya Lingam. And human form, or medium size, is how it's often translated in English, is in contrast to the all-pervasiveness. So that Krishna is simultaneously all-pervasive and medium-sized, simultaneously. And the medium size is Shuddha Sattva, spiritual. That, whose very essence is to have temporary existence, is called asat. So this is our classic, asat, the temporary. That, whose very essence is to have temporary existence, is called asat. The world is temporary, or asat. It is like a dream, transitory, but not false. It is covered with ignorance. Asta dishana. No, in the word for word asta, not ashta, it's asta. Dissana, the word for word is wherein awareness becomes covered over. Wherein awareness becomes covered over, or covered with ignorance. asta desana. Through the Sandhini Shakti, or Nitya, Hladini Shakti, Sukha, and Samvit Shakti, Bodha, you possess a Satchitananda body. Catch that? Sandhini, Samvit, Hladini correspond to Satchitananda. And the body of Krishna is Satchitananda, manifest this way. Sambit, Sandhini, Hladini. From this arises Maya, which gives rise to the material universe, and then destroys it, and thus it appears to exist through all time, meaning it's extended and withdrawn, and then again extended, and then again withdrawn. That's Vishwanath explaining the relationship between Krishna's Maya and him. Another meaning, that was to summarize. Then here's the other meaning. Your form is full of mercy, whereas this universe is full of inauspiciousness. Then, what is the necessity of considering this universe at all, if it is false? But the world is not false. Swapna, bham. Swapna is sleep, so dreaming. It's not false. Its dream is not false. It's just not what it appears to be. Though it is full of misery because of ignorance, it appears as wonderful. Sad eva, from the point of view of material pleasure. So these are two perspectives. And Jiva Goswami writes, and it's really long, we're not going to cover his whole commentary because it's really long. We'll cover some of it this evening. Hear it how it begins. Since you are the cause of everything, the universe arises from Maya. Material elements, and merges into them. Taking shelter of you, Tvayi, it appears like your Swarup, or your eternal abode. Because of the substantial existence of spiritual things related to you, the universe takes on substantiality to some degree. Substantiality, that's going back to category and substance. Substance or substantiality is sat, eternally existing. It takes on the quality of substantiality to some degree. At least it appears to be of substance. Just by being your energy, Maya has real existence. So we don't say false in an absolute sense. It's temporary, that kind of false. Now you see it, now you don't kind of false, like a dream. But being devoid of spiritual qualities, it is like an unreal entity, such as a horn of a rabbit. Meaning, rabbits don't have horns, or pushpa akash, flowers in the sky, or something like that. Paragraph. Though Maya is non-different from you, lacking your presence, it is like a dream, since it is not permanent. Then he quotes Vedanta Sutra. Again, this is same understanding Shakti and Shaktiman from Vedanta Sutra. It's in Sutra number 2, which is part of the Sambandha section of Vedanta Sutra. So here's the Sanskrit. Vaidaryamach cha na swapna divat. There's swapna again. sleep. The idea in the waking state, the ideas in the waking state are not like those of the dream state, since they are of a different nature. But it appears to be real and gives great suffering. It arises from your swarup, or now body, tanuvan manobir. It arises from your swarup, filled with eternal knowledge and happiness, defined as Parabrahman. Quoting Gopal Tapani Upanishad, I offer respects to Krishna, the form of Satchit Ananda, who never tires of performing actions, as well as from Vishnu Purana, Ekadesha Statas Yagyer Jyotishna Vistarini. Jyochna Vistarini. You've heard that one before. Eka Desha Stinatas Yagyer Jyochna Vistarini. He spread out, though located in one place, like light from fire. Paragraph. Some say that Maya means false teachings, and some say that Maya means an inconceivable energy. One can see persons called magicians. Illusion does not bewilder the magicians, since it is caused by the magicians. Although the illusion can bewilder others, it does not take away their vision. A mirage is an example. Paragraph. The sages and devatas speak of the second type of Maya, that's Yogamaya. The word Yogamaya is explained by Sridhar Swami in the third canto, when the Kumaras go to Vaikuntha. He gives the Sanskrit and the translation, 3:16:9. Yesham bibharmi aham akhanda vikunta yogamaya vibhutir. I am the master of my unobstructed internal energy, Yogamaya, and the water of the Ganges is the remnant left after my feet are washed. This Maya is not like the previous Maya, since it is not for the self, as in the case of the airplane for pleasure made by Kapila. That was a Mayic airplane, meant for a certain purpose, a Mayic purpose, giving Devahuti a chance to go see the universe and, do some sightseeing, take some pictures, send them back to her friends. Hey, look at this. And seeing that other Maya destroyed in battle by Pradyumna and others. That's Bhagavatam 10:76-17. I think that's the Shalva airplane. Powers like this are available to sages by austerities, but Maya of the Supreme Lord is intrinsic. Right? There are powers that tapasvis may acquire. Not always, but they may. And those are borrowed from another source. So Krishna doesn't have another source. His potencies don't have another source. That's his Swarup Shakti. his form, his potencies, is everything about him. And then there's another energy that's invested in different ways. I mean, including the energy of illusion is from the same source as the energy of knowing or the energy of mystic powers. So the energy of Krishna works differently depending upon the recipient or, guna and karma. One may be qualified for this and that and the other. So we had this little animated discussion in Naperville before coming here about free will versus we're all dependent. So if we're all dependent, how's there free will? And if there's free will, then why are we all, in all circumstances, dependent? Now, the simple answer is you can place yourself under the internal or the external potency. That's the marginal living entity's position in between this and that. But whether it's this or that, we're dependent or we're dependent. So, going back a few verses, living entities like Brahma and Shiva, they're invested with potencies to do service on behalf of the Supreme Lord. And those are directly invested potencies. They're Shaktivesh avatars, Guna avatars. And the Shaktivesh avatars, they're invested. They're mostly jivas, invested with the potency of the Supreme Lord. So they act with the fullness of, let's say, Prithu, ruling potency. He's a jiva, but he's invested with ruling potency. So he rules like as if he was Vishnu, but he's a jiva. So there's direct empowerment, that's Shaktivesh avatar. And if you read chapter 3 of Canto 1 carefully, one of the categories in this whole discussion about avatar is vibhutis. Vibhutis are indirect. Shaktivesh's avatars are direct, and there's indirect. Like there was a discussion I heard recently of that question, how is it that the Supreme Lord appears in all the different species, like plants? So it's vibhutis, in that particular case, for example. I mean, there's the Matsya avatar, but there's also of fishes I'm sharks. So that's a vibhuti. Or of plants, I am the Ashvat tree. So that's a vibhuti. Krishna's appearing as the Ashvat tree. I am. It's not the fullness of Vishnu. It's a living entity that's carrying some vibhuti. But Krishna is that. So what about the rest of the trees? The rest of the trees, they're invested with potencies. The whole of the universe is invested with potencies. So it appears to be real because it's connected with the real. But it's temporary, and therefore it doesn't have the same substance as the eternal. One more. Vishnu Purana mentions this apara Shakti. We're used to hearing apara prakriti, that's spiritual potency, like living entities are. Para and apara. Sarva bhuteshu sarvatman ya shaktir apara tava gunashraya namastasyai shashvatayai sareshvara. O Lord of the Devatas, O Paramatma, I offer respects to your inferior energy in all beings, which takes shelter of the gunas. That's the apara. Shruti mentions Maya Shakti, which is intrinsically false. Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Quote, the controller of Maya, the Lord, creates the material universe by Maya. The jiva, different from the Lord, falls under the control of Maya in the material world. And then the last quote is, again, Vishnu Purana, because it speaks a lot about Shakti and Shaktiman. O inconceivable Lord, the energies of all states of being are inconceivable beyond material knowledge. These are the energies of the Lord for creation, like the heat coming from fire. So we know Prabhupada has used that example so often. The Dharma of sugar is sweetness. The Dharma as fire is heat and light. The Dharma of the living entity is service. It's the essence. Now, we have our Gaudiya Vaishnava way of looking at this. The Sri Vaishnavas have their way of looking at this. They look at it as a Vishishta, or an attribute that's inherent within an entity. And conversely, without attributes, there's no entity. So the entity has attributes. Fire has heat and light. And that heat and light is spread everywhere, but it's resting upon the fire. And then fire is resting upon, and so forth and so on. Krishna is the original cause of all causes. So when we see whatever, light in the room coming from the fixture in the ceiling, so that's, I see the light. One can see Krishna within his vibhutis. That's one of the messages we're supposed to get from Bhagavad Gita. How to see Krishna always. Well, the taste of water, the ability in man, the light of the sun and the moon, light of the light bulb. There's attributes or qualities or characteristics of Maya in its different features, and they're resting upon the source, ultimately. Although we cannot see the source unless we're imbued with devotion. When we're imbued with devotion, then we can see the attributes and the source at the same time, because the attributes are resting upon, ultimately, the source. There may be, sequences resting upon cause and effect, but ultimately resting upon the source. So the whole of the Vedas. Let's do this. Veda means knowledge, and there's different types of knowledge. And this knowledge, that knowledge, the Vedas contains various knowledges. And the end of knowledge, Vedanta, is to know God. This is just repeating something I just heard Prabhupada explain the last 3 days from chapter 13, text 1 and 2, Bhagavad Gita. The Vedas means to know Krishna. Vedaistasaya Vairaham. So the end, or Vedanta, is to know God. And what is God? So God is a person who creates and has potencies to create and has expansions, and that's all part of Godness. But the part of Godness doesn't mean it's the source. The light from the light bulb is not God, but it's resting upon Him. So we can see the connection. One can, through devotion, not just knowledge, one can see the connection of all things with its source. And the medium for seeing that, experiencing that, is bhakti, is using those things in connection with the source. Paraphernalia for service. That's the universe. Paraphernalia for service. Some things are unfit, so we just don't offer them to Krishna. And some things that are fit, so we offer them to Krishna. And that's the life of devotion. And then there's more mature stages than that simple explanation, but that's foundational. We start with a foundation and simple. Hrishiketa Hrishikesha Sevanam. We take objects of the senses, bring the senses in contact with those objects of the senses, and offer them with love and devotion to the source of those objects and our senses. That's bhakti. And there's justification for it. Even Brahma is saying it's like a dream. It has no more value than a dream. We can do devotional service in a dream too. Daydream, night dream. And it's resting upon consciousness. The acknowledging the connection of all things with the source and offering them to the source. Because you don't do that, it's going to be another consciousness, exploiting the resources for sense enjoyment. That's the other program. Mode of passion, very, very prevalent. Or then mode of ignorance, depression, sadness, illusion, bewilderment. Two very popular modes. So let's see if there's some discussion. Farmer Karuna's really quick to raise his hand.
Terminologies or the statements made by different acharyas in different ways. Initially, you told that Sanatana Goswami told that Krishna is a form of Samvit, Sandini, Haladini Shakti, and from him the Maya arises.
Yeah.
And I was like totally struck that Maya never arises because Maya is always with Krishna. And then immediately you quoted Jiva Goswami, and he said that from him universe arises. So then I understood you mean Maya as a universe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to say arises doesn't mean it didn't exist and then poof, it exists. Arises is just being manifest from an unmanifest state.
Sure, that's one thing. I was also appreciating this Sat and Asat thing. That Krishna is in the back of everything, so he's Asat, and from him the Sat originated his material existence.
Yes.
But still, that material existence is Asat.
Yeah.
That's confusing.
It's word jugglery, right?
It's word jugglery.
But it's a different perspective on the term. That's all. That's not exactly word jugglery. It looks like, hey, is it this or is it that?
Yeah, that was to appreciation. My question is, you told about the airplane.
About the which?
Airplanes made
Yeah.
by Shalva and Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni was in pure devotional service.
Yes.
So his airplane was not a Maya Shakti. It was from the Yoga
Why?
Maya.
Why do you say that?
I'm asking a question, maybe.
No, he was simultaneously a pure devotee, but he also was a mystic. And mystics are manipulating material energy, subtle laws of material energy. He was both.
That you told that we should be conscious enough to give this asat in the service of Krishna.
Give the what?
Asat, like material existence, is universe which is totally
It's paraphernalia meant for service.
Paraphernalia meant for service.
Okay.
How can we understand the difference between vairagya and yukta vairagya in this situation?
Easy. Yukta vairagya is seeing things, something. The incense is paraphernalia to be offered to Krishna. It's not, it has a fragrance, so we have to not go near it. We have to make it zero, renounce it. We offer it to Krishna for his pleasure.
Sometimes there is a tendency that we use a term yukta vairagya in the way of offering to Krishna.
Yes, exactly.
That's my sense. I gave my example.
Yes, the body, our senses, the mind, etc., our ability to walk. We use it in service to Krishna, yukta vairagya.
Eating ourselves sometimes by, okay, I want to go to Best Buy, get a MacBook. This yukta vairagya I can use in Krishna service.
You're speaking really fast and I can't follow what you're saying.
Isn't like a cheating ourselves, like I want to go to Best Buy, I want to get a MacBook or an iPad and use in service of Krishna. So that's...
It can be material or it can be spiritual, it can be mixed. It depends, it's all resting on consciousness.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. And I have a simple question.
Same question.
Simple question. Simple question.
Same problem.
Yeah, simple. This thing is that the statement Mayavadis they say Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. So how I can preach that?
How what?
How can I preach to other?
You want to respond to the person that says Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. You want to know how to respond to that person? That's your question?
Yes, and one.
It's not false.
Yeah.
It's not false. If it's false, here's a hammer. I'm going to bang you on the head, but no problem because it's false.
Maharaj, again, thing is that regarding
It's a philosophy that doesn't match how people live their lives. It's notional humbug. It's not. Anyway. I don't say it again. So, you can give examples to help them understand how it's notional humbug, but it's not the real situation. It's not false. Okay, if it's false, give me all your money because it's false. Or here's a gun because your life is false. Is it okay? I can just let you have it because it's false anyways. I mean, I'm not going to do that, but is it a philosophy that you live by? No, it's not. It's notional. Okay.
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, in this verse, what you read, in that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving example like in a dream.
Yeah, it's right in the verse. It's right in the verse.
It is unreal. It appears to be real.
Yeah.
And although it is unreal.
Yeah.
So, but again, next verse is coming up tomorrow for you. If you will continue. That verse is stating this material universe is real.
Help.
Next verse will come tomorrow again. We'll discuss. So there it is stated, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is telling that the material universe is real. Yeah,
Stay tuned for tomorrow. One can speak in both senses, real, unreal. It's already included. You can say real, we can say unreal. Here's the basis, or when you say it's real, this is what it means. It's connected to the source. And it can be used in service to Krishna, so we don't say false, it has reality. Same as your same question, the Sadasat question. Anyone else?
My understanding is Sat is the cause and Asat is the effect. Is that a correct understanding?
That's the standard way, and it can be understood conversely. That was his trick question. 2:933 Bhagavatam. The conversely goes like this: that which you can see and that which is you cannot see. The cause you cannot see, the effect you can see. Okay?
So that way it also can be said Asat is the cause and Sat is
Yeah,
the effect.
that's not standard, but one can interpret or describe in that way. Okay. Then it's just a secondary meaning of a word instead of its primary meaning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Over here, you have something?
Maharaj, we hear that in one corner of the spiritual sky, a cloud forms, and that is the material cosmos. Or so I'm just wondering how Mahavishnu, he's eternal and he has a realm in the causal ocean. I mean, when we look at the Goloka map, and you have all of the Vaikuntha planets, as far as I recall, Mahavishnu is below that border of the spiritual dham. So if he's existing somewhere in the spiritual sky.
Yes, he is.
Just wondering about that.
You know, if you're an artist, how do you depict higher reality? So you have to use visuals to depict it. So you and I can remember that the planet within each universe where Kshirodaksha Vishnu resides, it's a spiritual planet. It's in the spiritual world. It's not destroyed when this is destroyed. And the Mahatattva is not just, it appears, it is. It's Pradhan or Mahatattva, it's Prakriti in different states. And the abode where Mahavishnu resides is a spiritual abode. If you took a vacuum cleaner and withdrew that cloud, that would exist. It's all spiritual. It's not, matter doesn't touch it. Within the cloud.
Just an interesting phenomena for the inhabitants of the spiritual world, how they're aware that there's this realm of Maya.
I don't know what they're aware of.
Conditioned souls, and that Mahavishnu is somewhere there.
I don't know if they know that. I don't know what they know.
Sorry to, in presence of Maharaj, I should not tell like that. Anyway, we are studying that in second canto. That we saw that if I have understood your question properly, your question is about the living entity and Mahavishnu. You mean to say? Yeah. So then, actually, in their second canto, it has been mentioned, Maharaj. So that means why the body of the Mahavishnu is a bluish color. Particular question is there. It is mentioned there that since all living entities are entering into the body of Mahavishnu after the devastation, so all living entities karma and is their swabhava, everything is included in that living entity. So that's why the color of Mahavishnu is become bluish. That is why, that means living entities are inside that. And they come out only when through the different question. So
okay, let's go over here. Krishna Archino has something.
It seems such an extraordinary thing that there's this very, you could say, it's a very subtle thing to understand that being able to see in proper perspective, and it's all dependent on connecting with the reality of where everything is coming from, so to speak.
Yes.
It's a very subtle thing, because truly one is in this realm of, it's termed as unreality, but it is reality from the proper perspective of the connection with the real.
Yes.
So one can understand why it requires so much careful analysis, breakdown. It's extraordinary. It truly is extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, of course, one is so grateful that Lord Brahma is carefully painting the picture and I guess drawing attention to how easy it is to get a little confused by virtue of the fact that one really is a resident in this place that's produced by the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just very much appreciating all the discussion and the careful analysis.
Yeah. I have a concluding thought. See if there's online. A concluding thought to this discussion is we're just little ordinary people. And what's our credential to understand this very elevated and the how powerful is illusion? You know, the illusion is a whammy that has how many living entities under her whammy of all varieties of species and forms, and what to speak of human population. The illusory potency is really powerful. She's doing a great job keeping everybody bewildered. And to get unbewildered, it requires the spiritual connection with the source of everything. And it's easy to think you got the connection with the source of everything when you missed the mark. There's lots of people that have an idea of connection and they're really not connected. They're really under the whammy. So how to get it right? And so it takes refined, as you say, subtle parsing of what's reality and what's illusion. And it's not easy because we're under illusion to get it. So we're very fortunate. We're little people getting the opportunity to make that connection. And the stronger the connection from the heart, through the mind, and then through the senses, this alignment point, then we can get it. That's bhakti. Is that then we can get it, and we're getting realigned, refined, realigned with the source of everything. That's Krishna. And anyone can chant Hare Krishna, get so much benefit. Let's go online.
Yamuna Jivan Prabhu says, comment, tomorrow is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance day.
Yeah.
This verse, 22, is one of two verses he used to often recite toward the end of his life.
Okay. We'll be discussing some of that tomorrow morning.
And his wife asks, it seems both thoughts coming from the mind and feelings coming from the heart are temporary, but real in the sense they are experienced by the person. Why then is someone who gives attention to his thoughts denigrated as being mental, whereas feelings coming from the heart seem to be valued within bhakti?
Well, you're making a distinction that is okay. However, there's another picture of what the mind does, thinking, feeling, and willing. Feeling is part of what the mind does. Thinking, feeling, and willing is part of a function of the mind. So leaving that to the side, the emphasis in bhakti is not just feeling, because everyone's feeling something. So the feeling is the love with which you offer, as opposed to mechanically or dryly or impersonally doing a ritual with no feeling. So the feeling emphasis in bhakti is in relation to the personality of Godhead. And it's not conversely, that thinking about Krishna is undervalued. Gosh, manmana. And we heard it yesterday. No, excuse me. It was in that little document that Jamuna Jivana prepared, that the meditation aspect, I forget the Sanskrit term, but it means meditation. Everyone's meditating on something. Meditating on having breakfast, or meditating on going to work today. Whoops, it's a holiday. Meditating on, having a nice holiday. So meditating, everyone's meditating on something. So it's not undermining meditation, but meditation, the mind function is meant to go to Krishna. How important is that, Sri Radhika? The mind going to Krishna. So speculation is the misuse of that mind potential or potency. That's where it's issued. And sentiment or feelings that are misplaced, it's also can be fanaticism. With a lot of that in this world. Next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Happy New Year. Hearing about this connivence, this partnership between the external potency and Yogamaya and our free will, I don't know if this is creating in us not a way of diverting from God because of our free will, but creates on us like a Stockholm syndrome in order for us to get attached to Krishna. It's like some sort of we don't understand, we don't know him, we fear him, but at some point we need him.
You're making a comment.
More like a question, Maharaj.
Oh, it's a comment. That's fine. I didn't catch the syndrome. What was the kind of syndrome you're speaking?
Stockholm syndrome, the dependence when somebody's kidnapped.
Somebody does what?
Kidnapped.
Kidnaps.
Yeah, for ransom or whatever reason.
Okay.
And the person that has been sequestered, that has been kidnapped, create an attachment to the guy that raptured him or her, creates an attachment. I don't know if you remember the case of Patricia Hearst back in the 60s when she was kidnapped in
I don't know the whole
LA.
story. I don't know the whole story. But don't tell me the story.
Okay. And psychologically there's a response to that captivity that the person captured.
Okay, so when we're in Maya, we get attached to Maya. That's what you're saying.
And to God, too.
Huh?
And to God, too.
And to God.
Yeah.
But he doesn't kidnap us. It's Maya who kidnaps us. We get covered. Ignorance covers that attachment to God. Maya covers the attachment. Ignorance covers reality. And we accept another reality, the ignorant reality, as reality. So it's not a one-to-one correlation, sorry. How are we doing online?
Just a few more.
Okay, let's go quickly.
Amol, you have previously emphasized that the relationship between Krishna's expansions, including the Purusha avatars, is ontological and not chronological. We know that the material universes are manifest, then unmanifest, then manifest, and so on. That also means that 2 of the 3 Purushas are not eternally manifest.
Why is that so? I don't know. I'm not sure you have understood correctly, or maybe I haven't understood correctly. I don't think Mahavishnu just disappears, or Shiradakshay Vishnu disappears, or Garbhadakshay Vishnu disappears. They may or may not disappear.
So he says, so it is very difficult not to conceive of their relationship to Mahavishnu as chronological. Is there some commentary to help us understand this ontologically?
Well, the ontological is they're eternally existing. Manifest through the Swarup Shakti. It's right in these prayers. They're manifest by the Swarup Shakti of the Supreme Lord. So it's not chronological. Swarup Shakti is not under the influence of time.
This is Giri Varadhari Das. In current material world, should we do assessment?
Should we do what?
Assessment. Assessment.
Do you understand the question?
For things happening around, whether it is Mahamaya or Yogamaya of the Lord's energy.
Well, that the meter is bhakti, and according to bhakti, it's the Mahamaya or Yogamaya from the living entity's perspective.
And from Sri Radhika, question about Ashtadishana, wherein awareness becomes covered over. We can see that over time, even with practice of abhas bhakti, there is greater awareness of our relationship with Krishna.
Yes.
The scary thought is that in this world of abhas, the realm of blind spots is greater than the light I am fooled to believe is shining through. How can I carefully negotiate through this very bewildering territory?
Effort and mercy. And you know what that means. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.